You stupid bitch. Yeah, you're a stupid bitch. You stupid bitch. Welcome to this week's episode of Stupid Bitches Say What, a podcast about everything and nothing, but always with wine. And your hosts, Skye Collett and Sean Hipkins.
This week's topic is back in time, and full disclosure, this is our second recording of the night, so we are definitely well into the second bottle. Stay tuned.
Listen in as we have a shared interest topic open for discussion. Thanks to one of our long-time listeners, Michelle O'Sullivan, we'll be talking about Shelley Belly. We'll be talking about unidentified flying objects and the existence of extraterrestrial life.
Sean has done his research and has some historical events to chat about.
And Skye loosely floats in and out on her views for the true existence of little green men and how most of her knowledge and opinions on aliens thus far are largely shaped by the X-Files.
Oh, what are you drinking, Sean?
Oh, me. I am still plowing through fucking Jen Pfeiffer and Sam Plunkett's Rebel Effect Shiraz.
Giant bottle of Shiraz. Has it gotten any tastier?
It just hasn't
It
hasn't gotten any worse. I'll say that much.
Well, that's a positive, right?
There's a bit of a dent in the decanter, but not as much as I thought there would be. But you know, once the whistle gets wet, the wine goes down a bit faster.
I think it's time now for us to really take it up a notch and, start drinking heavily.
Well, we've got the first episode out of the way. We did that in decent timing, which is good. First milestone. We've gotten better at actually not going off on tangents. So there were a few involved in that app, but no, we're doing well. We're doing well for time. And now it's time to smash out this topic and speak gibberish about little green men.
Aliens.
Alien. Yeah, an alien. Touch so foreign.
Oh my God, Katy Perry.
Okay, please. So how do we want to dive into this topic? Do you want to?
You need to ask me what the fuck I'm drinking, please.
Okay, let's start this by finding out, are you drinking Skye?
Just because you have a giant bottle of Shiraz doesn't mean that I too have a giant bottle of Shiraz.
It's now in a decanter.
For those of you drinking and listening at home and are up to the second episode, you would have known that I started on a cheeky little Pinot Grigio, which was a bit...
I believe the review was...
went something like that. Now I'm on to a Wolf Glass, yellow label, South Australian, Cab Sav from the year 2011.
Shut the fuck up. Are you serious?
Yeah, it's another one.
That's the most vintage we've been.
No, I had a 2011 a couple of weeks ago, remember? And you were like,
I thought it was a 2000. Was it 11? I thought it was a 16 or something.
No, it was a 2011.
Wow,
so
11-year-old. Right.
These are my brother-in-law's wines.
Wolf Blass isn't a bad brand.
Yeah.
The Queef.
Yeah. Look,
have a sip.
I have. I've already had a couple. I'm going to have another.
Tell Mama what it's like.
Stupid bitches say what, please? Okay. Look.
That's the palate.
The palate is it's got a heavy flavor. At least it's not woody like that gross white before, because even though it was make love not war,
and the symbol looked like a pretzel. Yeah.
It tasted like shart.
It tasted like war.
I'm going to say that there's essence of blueberry.
Oh.
Mixed with a little bit of some other type of berry.
Shut up. Cran straw.
There's some woodiness. I think there's some cranberry in it, and then some woodiness.
Oh, that's nice. What did you say the first berry was? Blueberry.
Blueberry.
It's like a proper fruit salad.
I meant cranberry, though. That's what I meant to say. It's more cranberry than anything.
Cream.
It's cranberry and woody and maybe a slight bit of blueberry.
And is it better than the white you had in the previous episode?
Oh, so much better. The white was gross. I tipped the glass. I drank 3/4 of the bottle and then I tipped the last bit of the glass down the sink.
At least you gave it a good fucking shot.
And then I put the rest of the bottle in the fridge for cooking.
Good idea. Always good for a risotto or a fucking spag bog.
Yes. Well, no. You put a red into a spag.
Well, I usually do, but I've seen Cooking with Shireen on Instagram. She put a white into a spag.
Okay. I only really put a white into a chicken dish.
Yeah.
A risotto. A creamy risotto, something with cream in it. I'd put a white into, but reds are always in my tomato-based dish.
Yes.
Meats.
It's like the color match.
Meats.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, so I want to ask you what you've done this week because I already know, but I have thought about a topic, something else to bring into this segment. Have you watched, and I'd be surprised if you hadn't even heard of it, because it's got one of your favorite fucking people in it who's from, fuck me,
Veronica Mars.
Yes.
I know what you're going to say.
The woman in the house across the road from the street of the girl in the window.
Look, Sarah said to me a few times, do you want to watch this? And I do want to watch it. We've just had other things going on. And then since we've had an opportunity to watch it and then we didn't, I just continually see reviews on Facebook and Instagram about how amazing it is. And you're right, I do love Kristen Bell. She's gotten a little bit fart sniffery these days, I must say. But I do love her, and I do love Veronica Mars.
Well, I have binged the whole season. It's an easy one to binge because I think there may be 8 to 10 episodes, but each episode's like 22 minutes long.
Yeah.
So you can do it in a day, really, if you're committed. But I watched it. I really got into it. I enjoyed it. It's just an interesting show because, like,
well, it's supposed to be a spoof, isn't it? Because that's what Sarah said to me. Because there's the woman across the
road. The woman in the house. The woman in the house across the road from the girl in the window.
Yes, it's based on a couple of amalgamations of books where it's someone who's got mental health issues and drinks a lot when they shouldn't.
Oh,
and
Skye.
A murder.
She is us when it comes to pouring a wine. I took a picture of her.
I've seen some of the trailer.
I took a picture and I sent it to Vinny and I'm like, who's this? He's like, you, babe. She gets a bottle of wine and just fills this big glass with the entire bottle. And like it's at the brim. And then she'll sort of bend down and then pick it up and walk away with it. And there's a guy that comes around in one part where she pours them both a wine. And like she's a bit frustrated with the guy. She picks out 2 glasses, picks up 2 bottles, empties the 2 bottles into the glasses here. And the guy's just like, the fuck is going on?
So talking about that, I remember, so years and years ago when Link was a little preppy, he got me a Mother's Day gift at one of the Mother's Day stalls. And it was a massive, giant wine glass. And it was a really beautiful wine glass, but it was one of those huge ones. Not like the comically novelty ones, but a very large glass. And I could literally fit a full glass of red wine in with maybe like this much left. And then I'd usually just sip it, drink the whole thing, and then go back to the couch with my whole bottle in a glass, and then one day I accidentally smashed it in the dishwasher.
Well,
I was devastated.
That's exactly the same glass she has. But you know those glasses you're talking about, I got from a Secret Santa at work, the same glass, but it actually held 2 bottles of wine. I never used it.
The novelty ones, yeah.
And I think I got thrown away after a move or something.
But
now I regret that. I regret that terribly.
Especially now that you're doing a podcast about getting drunk.
Just have the one glass. It's just the one glass. Fucking big, but it's just the one. But yeah, no, it's not bad. It's sort of dark humory, and there's a whole mystery part about it, and that whole, psychological thrillery part about it. And so you get into it, and then it will just go off on this sort of tangent. You're like, what the fuck's actually happening here? And then it'll bring you back into again with more of the mystery and stuff. It's interesting. I'd be intrigued to hear what you think about the season as a whole when you do watch it.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I'll put it on my list because I need something new to watch. Although I must say that Maths and Survivor is taking a big chunk of my life.
I also appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, I think, look, I think we need to do, once Maths finish and Survivor finishes, which sounds like they're going to finish about the same time.
Yeah.
Maybe that episode just needs to be Maths and Survivor. Maybe we do it from, you pick Survivor and I do Maths, and we come together and do it, because I feel like it's too early to speculate, and but it's,
the dinner parties are the fucking best. And last season too had some good shit. There was this one guy in it, I can't remember his name, Sam, I think it was, and he was a complete jerk and a fucking dickhead. But then he realizes with his partner, and it's not really a spoiler because it happens early, that they're not into each other and they're going to leave the experiment. But he takes on this guy in this one episode who's a complete gaslighting fuckwit, and he just starts going him. But when he goes him, he just becomes, in my head, turned from this fucking horrible fucking specimen into this, oh my God, I'd totally bone you. I was just like, oh, girl. You've piqued my interest.
I know.
All right. So how do we want to tackle alien encounters? So I've got a few encounters that I'll talk about. You have already expressed your uncertainty in the belief of it. So let's go through your feelings first, and then I'll come in with the encounters.
And look, after we talked, I did a little bit of research, so I have some reference material from a historical perspective that we can talk about, including things such as, the first kinds of abduction and yada yada yada.
Oh, good, because I didn't do abductions, so that's good.
Well, abductions is what really intrigues me about extraterrestrials and stuff like that. But I'm going to start with this. I'm going to say everything I know about UFOs, I learned from Mulder and Scully. And I'm also not sure that I entirely believe in them. And when I say that, I'm not saying that they don't exist.
Yeah.
And I also wouldn't be surprised if we got invaded by aliens tomorrow. I would be like, oh, look, there you go. They do exist. I'm not like against them. I'm not one of those people who's like, aliens don't exist. They're not real. Whilst I believe in ghosts there's not a doubt in my mind that ghosts and the paranormal exist with certainty. And I could talk about that for hours. And I think we need to make that a topic at some point.
Agreed.
About why I believe that way. Aliens have always been a bit of a weird thing for me. And everything that I either think about them or I believe about them comes from popular culture and movies or mostly the X-Files. But yes, if I was to sit there and go, do I think we're going to be invaded by aliens tomorrow, or do I think it's more likely that there will be a zombie apocalypse? I do think that the zombie apocalypse is
more of a chance.
More of a reality, which is insane, because most people listening to this are like, are you fucking for real? Zombies don't exist, you dummy. Whereas there's lots of reported sightings of UFOs and aliens and extraterrestrials. So look, that's my stance. I'm not saying I don't believe in them, and I think that there's lots of evidence. I just don't know how I feel about them, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they exist.
I've never been scared of an alien invasion, but I've always believed that there is life out there. Yeah, 100%. I mean, when you look at the whole thing, this is where my head gets completely baffled. And you remember I had an argument with you and Vinny. I was absolutely shocked beyond belief when you and Vinny, when we were looking up at the stars one time, and Vinny was like, aren't some of them made of ice? And I'm like, no, stars are not made of ice. And like, we're in a Milky Way galaxy, and our galaxy is just fucking tiny, and there's all these other galaxies. I remember this. Jesus Christ.
You yelled at us a lot.
What do you mean? Yeah. But like, that just baffles me. And when your head starts to think about all the stuff about, and it brings the whole meaning of life into existence, into the thoughts too.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on that too, but keep going.
Yeah, like, what are we here for? Like, and then what is the whole purpose of Earth? And then the solar systems, and what do all these solar systems actually make up? Do they make up another globe of something that's a part of something else? Or when you look at cells in the human body, and I don't know if you've ever seen, like, there's a picture of mitochondria, like, and they're like cells, but they look like they're walking, carrying something and stuff like that. And you just think, are we all just part of some other large organism's fucking existence.
I agree with that way of thinking. And this is the thing, like it's like people who said, the earth was flat for all those years and then they found that it was round. And it's like you can never really be sure about anything unless you see it with your and even when you do see it with your own eyes, it can have someone else have a completely different perspective on that. Anyway, so like it doesn't like whatever we believe is just what it is like to us. Like it doesn't mean you can't really rule anything out, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
But my hard part, I think, with extraterrestrials and like I do believe there has to be something greater than this. There's more out there.
Yeah.
But by all accounts and all historical recollections and everything that's happened that people have seen or heard or witnessed or been abducted and been tested on and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
They are the supreme being. Like their intellect, their technology, and everything is supposed to far, 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 far outweigh anything we've ever seen. Again, I'm drawing on my knowledge of X-Files.
No, but that's true. And I mean, like, why wouldn't it be though if they've been able to space travel and travel light years in seconds or whatever?
Yes.
Why wouldn't their intellect be up there?
Haven't we really seen them? Why haven't they showed if they're friendly fuckers? Why aren't they like, hi guys, we've got all this really cool technology. Do you want to use some of it? Or
do you know what?
They think
I think they
the earth.
No. Well, what they think, potentially, what my thoughts are is that they're touching base with our governments, our leaders, and that there's all this shit that we don't know about.
Wow.
They're not gonna drop down into the earth and go, hey, everybody, this is us. You know what I mean? They're not. There's an intellect and shit like that. So they know that they need to talk to the fucking world leaders, basically.
You sound like Mulder. I'm just gonna say that.
But that's what I think. Like they know that if they're gonna fucking
the case for Mulder and Scully.
X-Files. Yeah. But like they know that if they drop down in the middle of us, it's going to create hysteria and fucking mayhem. Everyone's going to be like, what the fuck? So, I don't think they'd ever turn around and go, boo, hello, it's me. So I'll start then with where all of this sort of starts from with the alien encounters and stuff, like the main part of it.
Sure.
And then we can jump in then with some abductions and other stuff and your views and whatnot. So we'll go back to Roswell, back in time.
Oh, I like Roswell. And then they made a TV series about Roswell and it had Katherine Heigl in it when she was a baby.
And the guy from fucking Dawson's Creek, who was one of the workmen at fucking Michelle, what was the chick who was married to Heath Ledger's? Michelle Williams.
Oh, Michelle Williams. Yes.
Yeah, the guy, and it was a hot young guy that was in fucking Dawson's Creek, and then he goes over to Roswell as one of the main characters. Yeah.
Yes.
So let's start where it really all took off with the Roswell incident. It was 1947, so back in time, if you will, 50 years prior to my birth.
I'm just going to interrupt one more time, just because I'm sorry to say this, but if you watch X-Files, it all gets tied back to the Roswell incident. And then also, what did I watch recently? Oh, it was Independence Day, I think, because we showed it to Link, I think, recently. And then they show the alien and they're like, oh, the government's been hiding it this whole time.
Since
like,
Roswell.
From the Roswell incident. Everything from pop culture is tied back to fucking Roswell. But anyway.
They also do, in the latest American Horror Story, which was it was one series, but there was two stories in the one series. I thought they were going to interlink, but they don't at all. And they sort of explore a lot about the Roswell thing with some theories and stuff, which also involves JFK and Marilyn Monroe and stuff like that. It's really interesting.
Yes.
So it's back in 1947. A rancher had found some debris of tinfoil, rubber, and thin wooden beams scattered across a mile of his ranch. He gathered them and he pushed it under some brush to just dispose of. So there was nothing sus, please. It's the 40s. His ranch didn't have a phone or a radio, so he was unaware that at the same time that he'd found those things, or in the weeks previous, the flying saucer craze that had hit America. At the time, people were reporting to see flying silver discs going around the country, until he made his trip back to his hometown when he'd heard the stories. And so he went back to the debris that he'd found, took it to the Roswell sheriff, who called the Army airfield in that area. The following day, the people on the case, so the military people, collected the material and were ordered that day to have it flown to the Fort Worth Army Airfield immediately.
Again, in X-Files. Continue.
They had to get it there immediately. They were not sure. I'm not sure what that place is, but it sounds pretty fucking official to me. That same day,
you need very high clearance to get in there. Like, you just have to be super high clearance.
Well, it already says, like, you say, oh, I found a bit of metal on my ranch, and they say to you the day that you get it, send it over. The next day that it's reported, send it into the fucking whatever. So it's already sort of sus. That day, the same day that it's sent to the Fort Worth Army Airfield, the RAAF issued a press release stating that a flying disc had been recovered from the ranch and it is now with higher headquarters.
Yes.
It was then quickly dismissed as material pieces of a weather balloon.
As a crashed weather balloon. Yes.
Exactly. The US Army Air Forces recovered the balloon debris from a ranch in New Mexico.
And also an alien.
And an alien. The incident was reported in newspapers.
According to pop culture.
No. Well, there's a statement that comes out about that too. So the incident was reported in newspapers, but it faded really quickly from public attention. Yeah. So this is a time well before the internet, where people could all connect and shit like that. So when the news was
what was written in the newspaper was checked,
the internet,
and double checked,
basically.
And
yeah,
it was like you couldn't just put an article about aliens in the newspaper.
Exactly, and radio and the newspapers were any source of fucking news. So the incident was reported in the newspapers. It faded from public attention, and the conspiracy theories.
Because people would naturally not believe it too. Naturally, their first reaction would be,
too
what a
much.
crock of shit. Yeah.
And it's also too much and a bit too wild.
So they'd let it fade, because then obviously they got wind of it. Or like, don't put it in the media. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've got this written down, but I'm going to say it anyway. And back then in America, it was a God-fearing country. Right, so
the presence of aliens meant that God was not the higher power. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, these are people who believe that dinosaur bones were planted as a test from God to test your faith. Evolution doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So the conspiracy theories didn't evolve.
Hashtag second bottle.
Hashtag cut out some shit pre this. So the conspiracy theories didn't actually evolve until decades later, where there was claims that the debris involving a flying saucer and that the truth had been actually covered up by the US government. In the 70s, it gains a bit more traction again. The story starts to become alive again, which is, as I was saying before, about how JFK was involved and Marilyn Monroe and all this shit, according to American Horror Story. But in an interview, a retired lieutenant or lieutenant, whatever they say, said that he believed the debris he retrieved was extraterrestrial. This is going to be in my house, your house, extraterrestrial all over. And from
it's a really hard word to say, extraterrestrial. You have to really sound it out as you're saying it. Like, you have to really sound out the syllables.
Terrestrial. That's what Katy Perry does. Terrestrial.
You said terrestrial.
Trio. Oh, God. Terrestrial. Anyway, terrestrial. And from that interview, another ton. And from that, a ton of conspiracy theories were born, claiming that one or more alien spacecrafts had crash landed and the extraterrestrial occupants had been recovered by the military and then covered up. Remember that alien autopsy show from years ago? Do you remember that? And that was actually meant to be official footage. Your wedding is
again, that's in Exiles. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, you were saying to me, I don't know if Exiles is going to fit.
No, I said about zombie apocalypse. I didn't know if they were going to fit. But yes. Total exfoliant. So,
can I ask a question though?
Of course.
At this point, I know you're going to go into this. Do you think that what happened was that someone fucked up, saw something, immediately released it to their superiors and the press and everything, went, fuck, we've got a motherfucking alien here right now, and then everyone went, shut the fuck up. And that's why they changed it to be
100%.
weather balloon.
That's what I think, 100%. So at the time, when this guy, the rancher, had found the debris, he wasn't aware because he was living out on the ranch in Yellowstone, maybe. No, it wasn't Yellowstone. It was fucking New Mexico.
maybe the Sixers. It's on the Sixers
Maybe it's the Sixers. He'd found the debris. Then he went back to his hometown, heard the radio reports about all these flying saucers going around that people had seen, went out, found it. He took it back. The spokesperson or the press person for fucking the Fort Worth Army Field or whatever, one of them had said the thing, oh, look, the flying saucers are actually real. We found this shit. And then they've retracted it the next day. No, dickhead. Yeah. That's not what happened.
Yeah.
So the conspiracy theories were born.
Reminds me of fucking the Berlin Wall when the dude went out there without the
it totally fucked up. Exactly. That's exactly what happened. But in this case, they covered it up. They didn't just go, oh, fuck it, tear it down. He's got it. So the conspiracy theories were born, claiming that one or more alien spacecrafts had crash landed and that extraterrestrial occupants, so aliens, had been recovered by the military and then covered up. And then, yes, we talked about the alien autopsy show from years ago. The theories continued for many years. Many TV shows have been made on it, as well as TV specials, including the latest installment of American Horror Story. So the hype around it continued and still survives to the day and has been described as the world's most famous, most exhaustively investigated, and most thoroughly debunked UFO claim. In 94.
Is it debunked though? They say that it's debunked. But
they're telling us it's debunked.
There's too many, references.
Well, why is there still Area 51 over that area that's completely locked out to the public?
Well, remember when they were all going to barge on Area 51? That was a couple of years ago. And there was a big group that got together and fuck this, we're going to just fucking storm on Area 51. We're going to fucking say, tell us all your secrets. And then the military came up and said, well, we're going to fucking also shoot you.
Yeah. So stay at home. But anyway,
if they existed.
In 1994, the US Air Force published a report stating that the balloon from Roswell was actually the weather balloon was actually a nuclear test surveillance balloon. And a second report published in 97 concluded that alien bodies that had been reportedly seen at the event were probably just test dummies being dropped from high altitude.
Sure.
What a load of shit, right?
Yeah.
I know. So that's my Roswell piece. Questions? Any statements?
Well, again, I think that with all their powers and supernatural ability and intellect, if those people, those little alien bodies were held against their will, they would have rescued them somehow, right?
Maybe there could be no communication.
That's the other thing that doesn't add up.
But how could they communicate with them?
Well, they're supposed to communicate through ESP, telepathically.
Because it's meant to be a crash landing. So they probably thought they're dead, or maybe they knew it and maybe they had made contact.
Look, I'm not
maybe they had made contact.
Theories. I'm just
but maybe they had made contact.
I guess I'm skeptical.
So okay, I'll go into the American Horror Story part of it, and this because it's quite a good theory. So, and you'll look at the way that technology has.
Bottle's really heavy in my hand while I'm pouring it.
You know how technology has advanced superiorly over the since the 70s.
Superiorly.
Is that a word? Superiorly.
I don't know. It sounded good when you said it, except you said superiorly.
Superiorly. Shop it. Seriously.
Shop it.
Seriously.
Shop it right now.
Seriously, Skye. Sean's talking. So what they talk about in the American Horror Story, which I believe every word of, is that technology
just like
advancements.
I believe every word of X-Files. Mulder would never lie to me. Scully would lie, but Mulder would never lie to me.
So the technological advancements have been very quick, very sudden over the last 50 years, right?
Oh, so you're saying it's from the extraterrestrials?
This is a theory that they sort of touch on with the American Horror Stories, that they touch base with the Earth, and we're going to share some.
We've made a deal with the devil.
Pretty much, they're going to share with them. Well, they say with Americans, their technological advancements, if the Americans will surrender certain
people
citizens
to be experimented on,
so they can then do their
Hashtag
experiments. And is that X-Files as well?
Hashtag X-Files. This is what I'm saying to you. Everything I know about aliens is from the X-Files because it's legit, mate.
So they talk about that they will share this intellect if they get some victims. They'll return the victims easily enough. They'll try and make them forget everything. And the reason why in American Horror Story that they're sharing victims is because these aliens' home planet is fucked and they need to interbreed with humans to keep their civilization going. And so that's what they sort of do.
I've also heard that. Yes, I've also heard that. Also covered off in the X-Files when they impregnate Scully.
That's right. She had an alien baby. And Scully, Mulder lost his sister to an alien abduction, didn't he?
She actually had two babies. She had an alien baby and then she had Mulder's baby.
Did she get pregnant to Mulder?
She got pregnant to Mulder and then
was it through natural conception?
Natural conception, and then she gave the Mulder baby up for adoption because they were being targeted by the government and the Mulder baby was going to be murdered.
Is that one of the movies or is that the series?
Okay. So if you really are asking me this question, we watched the entire X-Files from beginning to end pretty much when Tyler and I first got together. I didn't even know why we did it because he had not. We'd both seen bits and pieces, but not really seen it. Then we watched the whole thing. We got to the end, so we watched one of the movies, and we got to where they just re-released the new movie, and then there was 2 TV shows.
That's right. Yes.
Where Mulder and Scully's son has grown up.
Oh wow!
But, so one movie happens in the original series about 4 or 5 seasons in, and then it goes to about season 9 or 10 or something like that, and then they replace Mulder with that dude, and they replaced Scully with that chick, Annabelle Gish. I know her name for some reason. She was also in The Haunting of Hill House. She's the one whose baby dies in the house. Anyway, which I ended up loving both those characters because I was like, I can't believe they've written Mulder and Scully out. I hate the show and don't even want to watch it, but they were great characters in the end. But then Mulder and Scully come back into it before the new ones happened, and then she gives up their baby for adoption so Mulder can come out of hiding. And it's such a ridiculous ending, and I hated Scully so much in the end. I didn't want to see the rest of the seasons because I was so mad at her, and I'm still really mad at her. And I'm mad at Mulder because Mulder left her. But he actually went off to do movies.
Belinda was fucking obsessed with Mulder. David Duchovny. Yeah, she was obsessed with him.
And then Californication. But most of the things that happened in UFO incidents throughout the history of America and some international places are covered in the X-Files in a way that is not exactly accurate, but they bring in accurate events.
Based on true events. Yeah.
I know, and that's what I was saying. I know a bit about it.
Okay, cool.
Laura and Scully.
I love that.
Have you ever watched the X-Files?
Yes. So I'm the same as you, though, that I watched quite a few. I may have watched a whole season here and there, and then a few episodes here and there. The episode that stands out for me that fucking terrified me was the one with the inbred family.
With the babies that they kept murdering and burying them in the ground. Oh, it's horrible. This
was horrific. It scared the shit out of me, and it fucked me up for fucking weeks. You know when they lift up the bed and they find the person on the bed and
she's got no arms and legs because she's in the car accident,
and she fucking drags herself around on it by her teeth and shit. Jesus Christ.
She keeps having sex with the sons and stuff like
that.
Well,
they rape her.
Babies. Yeah.
They rape her, yeah, because she's got no arms and legs, and she's like,
She has to keep the babies going, like she has to keep the family line going, and she they don't rape her. She has sex with them willingly.
It was horrendous. And they at the beginning, I think they go and kill the police officer or somebody that was sort of finding out that was happening. They chopped him up
into little pieces with axes in his house.
Yeah, and the wife was hidden under the bed, and she
And they
keeps
play
getting
like
away.
the old school music, and they drive up in the old
Yes.
school
Oh
car,
my
and they've
God.
got long hair and
And
weird
they're
ass
fucking
features because they're
deformed. And,
inbred.
oh yeah, that fucked me up. That
I
fucked
know
me up.
that episode. I fucking love the X-Files, man. It's the best show.
Okay, so I'm going to go into my next incident, my next alien encounter for you. Now, this one's an Australian
A
incident.
personal encounter of an alien, or
have you ever seen an alien? Have you ever seen anything weird in the sky?
no?
The weirdest
Never.
thing I saw in the sky was with a friend of mine. I was 15 at the time, 15, 14, 16, one of the two. Actually, 14, 15.
It was the shooting star.
No, it wasn't. I know what you're talking about though, but we were out the back. We used to set up a tent in the backyard and we'd have sleepovers in the tent, do that shit. That was our naughty thing. So we could then.
What?
I know, but that was the naughty thing because then we could muck around. And when the parents went to bed, we were able to go out and rock roofs. But I remember we were looking up at the stars this one time. And we'd seen, like, you know, you could see satellites going across the night sky, like a little star going across. And we were watching it, and it actually exploded into 3 little things going apart. That was the only thing that I'd seen that I would say was an unidentified flying object.
I've never seen anything alien like, nor supernatural like. Touch wood, thank God, because I think if an alien came up, look, yes, I'd definitely be worried about being probed because it seems like that's all they do. And I'd be
I'm looking forward to that. I'm like, just spit on it first.
Ew.
Okay, anyway, this is an Australian incident. Now, this is one I'd seen on that Netflix special I was talking about.
What year, please? What year?
1966, clickety click. So this
I'm going to look it up in my Wikipedia log because I have a log of all the events.
Okay, it's called the Westall UFO.
I can find it by the year.
Okay, great, good year. So
1966, you're saying.
Wednesday, the 6th of April, 1966, at approximately 11 a.m. So this is an Australian incident. So Shelley, who suggested this topic for us.
Westall UFO, Clayton, South Victoria.
Yes, exactly. So Shelley had been watching this Netflix special, and that's what piqued her interest in the whole thing and why she suggested it as a topic. I started watching the special, and she'd said the person that she was seeing at the time and her were watching it, and she'd said to him, why are they always in the US? Blah, blah, blah. They're never in Australia or anywhere else.
There's a few New Zealand sightings too, by the way.
Well, next minute, the Australian episode came on. So this incident happened on Wednesday, the 6th of April in 1966, at approximately 11 a.m., students and a teacher from Westall High School reported seeing a flying object that was grey or silvery green. Grey or silvery green, saucer-shaped with a purple hue and about double the size of a car. But it all started apparently when a girl ran into the classroom screaming, "A UFO has landed nearby." She apparently saw it fly over the school as it was descending and disappeared behind some trees. She followed it, but it was gone, and there was just an impression left in the grass. The teacher told everyone to calm down, chill out, stay where they were seated, but next minute the bell rang for morning tea or little lunch. Do you remember little lunch and big lunch?
Little lunch.
So they all ran out for little lunch. And they all report, so the students that were there and the teacher report seeing the flying saucer then hovering above them and then take off at a great speed. Channel 9 were first on the scene, interviewing the students about what they saw, etc. But then comes the cover-up. So they did the report. The report is never broadcasted. And even though photos were taken from that school, they're never seen again. Eyewitnesses have stated that the government instructed the students were not allowed to speak about the incidents, and teachers were also given the same warning. All files of the case had been removed from media organisations. There is, however, a Polaroid that still exists, which I'll post in the socials, that was taken 2 days prior to the event in the same area. And the photographer said that the UFO performed exactly how the children said it had performed. The photo's also been analysed, and I don't know how, what's the word? I don't know how fucking valid this is, but it's been analysed by the Victoria Flying Saucer Research Society and deemed that the photograph is real and not edited. So despite the verification of the photo and the several eyewitness reports, there is still a lot of doubt around the story. But one eyewitness does say, and I quote, "All we want is an answer. All we want is for someone to say to us, yes, we know that did happen that day. It was a very extraordinary experience, but something definitely did happen that day. It wasn't in your imagination. You weren't on drugs. You weren't drunk. It happened." So my last incident, well, it's not really an incident. It's more of some proof, I think should, if anything, get you to believe. But we'll go into any more questions. We've got some
Nothing you've said so far has made me believe. Look, like I said to you, I'm not saying I don't believe. I just I feel a little bit, but like I said, if the alien showed up tonight and like tried to, have sex with me, I'd be like,
get in there.
Well, I'd be like, no, I'm about to be married, also fuck off. But I'd also be like, I'm not.
And I reckon they would take that to, oh, sorry, ma'am. Excuse me, my fiance is right next to me.
Single bitch. I'm like, yeah, go find a single bitch.
Get that alien fucking peen away from me.
Get your fucking green body out. I'm not interested.
So if we were having a stripper for your hens, which I know we're not, but if we were having a stripper, I'd make him come as an alien.
Look, people, I'm not a prude. We're only not having a stripper because we prefer the naked waiters that let you do jelly shots off their
totally. Look, and sometimes strippers can be a bit too much with the interaction.
Gross.
Oh, well, look, I wouldn't
naked
say
waiters,
that.
on the other hand,
I would have preferred a more fucking interactive stripper for our bucks, but some people just aren't into that stuff. But that's understandable, respected. You stupid bitch.
Anyway, we digress. But yes, if a green man showed up tonight, I'd be like, oh, well, there you go.
Bina was right.
Real. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be like, what? I wouldn't freak. I mean, I think I would freak out if they tried to abduct me. Of course I would.
I'd be like, okay, lay down the ground rules. Are you going to treat me like a proper gentleman? Or are you going to fucking... What's the go here? Am I going to hate what you're going to do to me? And then
they put you in a medical tube and just like poke you with like needles and stuff. When they abducted Mulder, they fucked him up, okay? They didn't just like try to have sex with him. They just, because I'll talk about my abduction stories in a minute. No, I think they might have, but they stabbed him a lot and they did lots of awful, and also Scully's experience with the aliens was pretty brutal.
Not pleasant. All right, talk about some abductions now.
Okay. Well, I don't have lots because I didn't go into that much information about them, but I thought it was relevant because I went through a whole bunch of historical events. So I will tell you because, listeners, I was talking about my lack of belief in extraterrestrials, but it isn't. I'm not like a hard, fast. I don't believe in them.
That they're out there. You just don't believe they're coming to Earth.
Well, it's not even that. There's other things that I believe in more wholeheartedly. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, yeah, there could be aliens. Yeah, there could not be. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm not completely against the idea.
I don't understand how. No offense. I don't understand how people could like. I don't think that the Earth is the only populated planet.
I completely agree with that. Yes, but I feel like it's just plants mostly, and weird animals that can't travel. But
so yours is humanoid aliens.
Yeah, and I've watched a lot of Star Wars,
X-Files,
and X-Files on top of that.
Independence Day.
I've watched all the fucking Star Wars. Okay, I should really believe in extraterrestrial life. However, the idea of a little green man or little man with weird eyes, it's just not really something that I just go, yeah, I can subscribe to. Like, I can just, invest in. Whereas ghosts, I totally believe in ghosts. And I think that they're just, if you're not careful, never do a Ouija board, people. Never do.
Oh, we've got a Ouija board.
burn it or get rid of it or give it away immediately.
And do you know what's creepy about it? We've never used it. So when Pigeon came over and...
Why did you get it? Who got it for you? Why? Did you buy it yourself?
So when Pigeon came and stayed with us a couple of years ago, we went down to the Gold Coast for a couple of nights and we were at this convention. We're at this RSL and I was playing the pokies and they had a convention upstairs, but it was like more of a sort of mystical healing angels type of spiritual convention or a spiritual workshop or conference. There was exhibitions and stuff like that, you know, like fucking stalls. And I'd won some money on the pokies and I gave Vinny and Pigeon some money and from my winnings, and Vinny bought this Ouija board. But the creepy thing about it is it's sat in our cupboard for a couple of years. The creepy thing about it is the instructions start saying about what you need to do to prepare your protection for the Ouija board, but it finishes halfway and it cuts off and there's no more text.
Get rid of it. I can't believe I've slept in your house and you have that in your wardrobe. I would not sleep with that in my wardrobe. Get rid of it, man. Fucking bin it.
Yeah, Ouija board.
How much did they pay for it?
I think he paid $30 for it.
Get rid of it. Chuck it in the bin. I'm not even kidding. Sell it then.
Put it on Marketplace. Haunted Ouija board. $3,000. That's not a bad idea, actually.
Someone will probably buy it from me for that much money. Get rid of it. I'm not even joking.
Probably won't, but I heed your warning.
Get rid of your Ouija board. Evil, they're evil.
All right, go on your abductions.
Again, all my abductions. Help your help. All of my abductions stories come from Wikipedia and in a really old time. But I'm going to tell you something that I've researched today historically is that the first sighting of aliens was 1440 BCE, which we know it as before Christ, but I had to Google it.
What before? What's BCE? What's the E?
BC used to be before Christ, but if you're not a religious person and you don't believe in Christ, BCE is before common events or before the common era. And apparently, and
what year is that?
Me, so 1440 BCE.
Yeah, but what's BCE? As in
before Christ, so 1440.
Oh, so BC is before Christ, but for the non-religious, it's before current events.
Before current events,
but it's still the same timeline.
Yeah, but apparently the Jewish people have always referred to BCE because obviously they have different, representatives.
They go on the Old Testament, not the New Testament.
Yeah. Which I found really interesting because that's the first time I'd seen BCE and I had to look it up. And even my sister, who's a lot more intellectual and a lot more scholarly than I am, she had not heard of that before.
Theology too, I've never heard of it either.
Yeah, so the first accounts of extraterrestrial life or something is 1440 BCE and the name was fiery discs and it was in Egypt, and according to the disputed Tully Papyrus, the scribes of the pharaoh reported that fiery discs were encountered floating over the skies. Yada yada yada, there's a whole lot more,
which makes sense because they talk about the pyramids and stuff.
Of course, yeah. So then we go to 2018, and I'm just going to, just for a reference point, say before Christ, because that's just what
that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
But I know that it's BCE is the.
It's the same thing.
A lot of people do. So 2018 before Christ, in the Roman Republic, there was reports of portents in the winter of this year. Actually, phantom ships have been seen gleaming in the sky. Wow. And then we go on and on and on. Roman Republic and Roman Empire, there was lots of things about seeing things in the sky, which was again all before Christ.
And you wonder if those things that they saw were probably meteorites or comets or something, because they wouldn't have had that.
Absolutely. But I feel like there's a trend. So look, it's definitely things that could be explained away.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the 19th century. We'll jump a bit. There's, in the before BCE era and the 16th and 17th century, there's like at least, 15 events
that are recorded where they could have been something that people couldn't explain. But you're right, it could have been a falling star. It could have been something that we would explain now quite easily.
Yeah.
So 1803, Japan. Local fishermen reportedly saw a vessel drifting in close by waters. They say when they investigated it, a beautiful young woman they described as having red and white hair and dressed in strange clothes appeared. The fishermen claimed she held a square box that no one was allowed to touch. She spoke to them in a language they'd never heard before. Some UFO believers think the story was a credible document of a close encounter of the third kind in Japan. But in 1803, how many people might have accidentally come upon you that had come from a different land that didn't speak your language? So
yeah,
you
exactly.
can talk away a lot of the older stuff, but there's countless tales of it. Do you know what I mean? Like there's countless events.
And it's back in a time too when people didn't have the technology that we have in our hand now, in our iPhone or whatever, you know. So like a lot more encounters happened back then than they probably do now. And you wonder if the reason is because the intellectual life, the alien life forms know that we have much more technologically advanced shit in our hands that we could actually record stuff with, so they keep their distance a bit more.
I'm going to jump forward to 1957, and this is in Brazil.
Okay.
One of the first abduction claims. Farmer Antonia Villas Boas claimed to have been abducted and examined by humanoid aliens while working in the fields at night. He also claimed to have had sex with an alien woman aboard the egg-shaped aircraft. So that's the first known abduction claim in 1957. And it was about being examined. It was about, you know...
Yep.
He was being abducted, and then he also had sex with someone, with a woman. And it was an egg-shaped aircraft.
Yeah.
Which, again, is very similar to all the things that people talk about.
They say, egg-shaped, cigar-shaped, yep.
And look, again, it could be because people have heard it, but in 1957, you wouldn't have known what was happening somewhere else if you were in fucking Brazil.
A farmer in Brazil.
A farmer in Brazil in 1957 did not have access to the internet or probably a lot of media.
Yes, international media. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So then in 1961, the first widely publicized alien abduction experience occurred in the United States. The Hills saw a huge flying disc while driving home in their car late in the evening, and later claimed they were abducted and medically examined by small extraterrestrials. And look, the dude in Brazil and the people in the United States could have been in cahoots. They could have been mates, they could have been brother-in-laws, sister-in-laws, whoever. But it seems quite a jump.
A coincidence.
To go that the medical examination happened. Still not saying I'm a believer, but I'm saying, you know, you can't dispute the facts. And then the list of abductions keeps going.
Goes on. Of course. Many. I mean, it's like the Michael Jackson case. When one person comes out, then all these fucking copycat things come out. So the real cases get washed over because all these copycat ones come out. And so it takes away the fucking, what's the word? The credentials of the real case.
But the Westall UFO, the one that you talked about, it's called the Clayton incident, and they still gather together for reunions. They still get together, those people.
Why would they do that? Yeah, exactly.
They 100% are certain that they saw something, and they get together and talk about it.
Why would you do that if it was a farce? Yeah.
But the other thing that makes me a tiny bit skeptical, and look, it could be just, you know, the communication factor or the access to media from people in remote areas and regional areas and whatever, but the majority of accounts happen in the United States.
Yeah. And see, and the reason why, how American Horror Story explains that is because when the aliens come down and sort of put this proposition to the US government, we'll give you all this technology, if you give us a few bodies, basically. And when the president, I think it's Eisenhower at the time when the Roswell incident happened, is like, oh, I don't know about this, I can't put the American people in fucking peril. They're like, well, we could go to the Russians and give them this information, but it's up to you. And that's why all the abductions happened.
They explain it in the X-Files, and this is you know.
Yeah. It's all pop
like
culture.
you said, your theory though is that the government is in conversation
Yeah,
with
totally.
extraterrestrial life.
And
I don't believe that.
oh, well, I do. And my next story, if this doesn't convince you, I'll be well, nothing would, I don't think. Okay, so I don't know if you've ever seen these videos, but in 2020, last 2 years ago, at the beginning of April, I think it was, the US Department of Defense released 3 videos taken by US Navy pilots revealing mysterious flying objects. The objects still remain unidentified to this day. So the footage, which shows these UFOs flying at high speeds in Earth's atmosphere, accompanied by audio.
I've seen them. I know the ones you're talking about.
Accompanied by audio of Navy pilots expressing shock and awe, was initially leaked in 2007 and again in 2017. So the Pentagon declassified the videos in April 2020 and released them to the public to, and I quote, clear up any misconceptions by the public on whether or not the footage that had been previously circulating was real. Who knows what the fuck they mean by that? And then start quote again, the US Navy previously acknowledged that these videos circulating in the public domain were indeed Navy videos. After a thorough After a thorough review, the department has determined that the authorized release of these unclassified videos does not reveal any sensitive capabilities or systems and does not impinge on any subsequent investigation of military airspace incursions by unidentified aerial phenomena. Why do people actually speak in this language? It's like, just say it in English, for fuck's sake. Anyway, the aerial phenomena observed in the videos remain characterized.
You're at school where you have to break it up into parts.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Research each word and
so
go like,
actually
okay, this word means
means
this, and this word means this, and together, this is what they're trying to say.
Exactly. So in human language, not alien, what we're saying is shit's out there. So I'll post a link to the videos on our socials, allegedly, when the video is launched. So the videos actually show unidentified flying objects flying at high speeds. It's all shown on their tech equipment the pilots used, but it's clear what we are looking at. So you've got all the fucking lines and the little numbers and shit like that on there. The first video was actually taken in 2004, and it's the one you can see the object rotating in, etc. It's pretty whack. During the video, you can see what they're referring to and hear the pilots making comments like, there's a whole fleet of them. My gosh, they're all going against the wind. The wind is 120 knots to the west. I don't know how forceful a knot is, but I'm guessing it's harsh. And my favorite quote, is, and look at that thing, dude. The next 2 videos were taken in 2015. In the second video, you can see them that they're looking through like their camera of what their craft is and the video of it. And you can see this speck that keeps flying from one end of the corner to the next. And you can see this little square that's on their camera trying to sort of, which I guess is their auto lock thing. The speck flies through. They miss it the first time. They move the camera down and the speck flies through again, and then they move the camera down again, and as the speck comes in, the little square actually is over the little speck that's coming flying through, and the person locks onto it with the view, and you can hear him celebrate, and you hear all this, woohoo, I got it, and all this shit. And then there's people asking, and they're like, what the fuck is that thing? What is that, man? Look at it fly. Yeah. And they're laughing throughout it. And the laughter is not like, ha, 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 look at this thing. It's more like, whoa, oh my God, whoa, shit, yeah. The third video is just more of these weird objects that are flying that they're locked onto on their auto trace or whatever it is.
Link made me see all these. I think because Link's obsessed with stuff like this.
It's fucking interesting.
He made me watch them all. That's why I know what you're talking about. He made me watch. So I was like, no, you have to watch this next one. This is
from the military, and they're seeing this stuff. And you know that another country hasn't developed this thing that's flying through. Otherwise, we'd all be fucking Russian. We'd all be drinking vodka and speaking Putin.
I love vodka.
I love vodka too. I know. So they've released the third video of the same thing, and and they're auto trace and whatever, and they're following it. It's pretty interesting. And you wonder why they've released it. And the reason why I think they've released it, so apparently it was leaked and the government are now confirming it. So the reason why I think they've released it is that they're preparing us as the human race for the inevitable. The contact has been made and has been made for years, because we aren't going to learn about it as soon as the government do. That shit is kept under wraps, especially back in the day of Roswell.
Yeah.
When there were a lot more God-fearing people. Here's my note on that. Where there were a lot more God-fearing people out there, and we weren't as technically advanced in everyday life like we are now.
And people were believable. You could believe a crazy person because they might have seen something. Now, if a crazy person says something like,
exactly. And so, and
where did it come from? Why
it would create mayhem. It'd create mayhem.
Thanks for listening, fellow stupid bitches. If you enjoyed this week's episode, don't forget to tell your friends, and we would love you to leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But we love Spotify.
Fucking creep. Also,
you're creepy.
Also, don't forget to follow our socials at stupidbsaywhat, or drop us a line at stupidbsaywhat@gmail.com. May your wine be delicious, and you always have a second bottle chilling and handy. Good night.
But you know what? I'm just realizing, you know how I can tell that we're really drunk and this podcast is going to be a really drunk representation is because we go on tangents.
100%.
And we go so far away.
So on July 8, 1947, Roswell Army Airfield. In July 8, 1947, Roswell Army Airfield issued. Oh my God.
That's so 17 drinks getting into you, mate.
My notes have crossed over. Yeah, that stupid bitch. He's a stupid bitch. What a stupid bitch. That's stupid.